Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. Wanted to talk about getting a lot of questions right now about, hey, when should I plant? So I want to give you some resources and some areas you can search to learn more, and I'll give you my opinion as well. So this is greencast.com. You can put in your state, you can put in your zip code. It'll give you the current soil temperatures. A little bit neater thing about this website is you can scroll down. Obviously, this is entire state aggregated data, so you can go down to your zip code if you'd like. But it gives you the previous year and then 5 and 10 year averages. So here you can see I'm on the date of May 7th, 2023. You just drag your finger along that line and it'll update. But you can see there's a really distinct upward trend there on the 5 and 10 year average. 2023 had a little bit more variability, which is to be expected because it's only a singular year versus a 5 or 10 year average where you're going to see that variability streamline out. But the general trend is upward from early May on, with that being 57 degrees in the 5 year average or 59 in 10 year, which means we can look at getting our plots planted depending on the species, but like our nitro boost, getting into the ground a little bit early as long as your 5 to 10 day forecast is showing upward trends. This is a popular phenomenon in the ag industry right now. So here's one example of a study that talked about early beans is leading to a higher yield. Here's another one that's talking about, this was just published in 2022 in August, so relatively recent. And it is also talking about planting soybeans early is showing increases in yield. And then here's another study out of Illinois that was talking about planting beans early from a field agronomist, Ken Fieri, hopefully I said that name right, and it was showing that he was increasing yields by 5 to 10 bushel per acre by getting them in the ground earlier. This is not only in beans, this also is showing in corn. However, something to keep in mind here, and what they talked about is the planting date conundrum, is that you're only going to increase your yield by a relative percentage of what your maximum yield would be anyways. So for example, what that means is, like, let's say that your field from a fertility perspective was only going to produce, or not only, but was going to produce 200 bushel. By planting early, you certainly can increase that yield, and the data is showing that, despite any acts of God, right? Mother Nature is always in final control. But if your fertility, so then you'd get 220 bushel, right? 10% times that 220, something like along those lines. Don't quote me on the math, but it's in this article if you look this up. And then the idea following that would be that if your fertility isn't there, planting early isn't going to just magically make your corn or beans, produce 200 bushel in the case of corn. So it is a benefit, but it's only going to benefit from where your baseline is. So hopefully that makes sense. So going back, what are my thoughts on this from a food plotting or cover crop, summertime cover crop perspective, is I do like to get it in early. I like to get it in right as the temperatures are rising. I shoot for around mid-May to maybe late May at the latest, which is right on time. I mean, you're going to be right around 60 degrees soil temps, 55 to 60 degrees. I'm fine with that depending on your schedule, as so long as you're seeing the forecast isn't showing any anomalies like, a 30-degree day in May or something really unusual. I think that the benefits of that are that we get a really strong root system. Some studies have shown that because of those strong root systems getting established earlier, when we kind of still are getting some of those spring rains, that the plants are a little bit more resistant to drought later in the year. Honestly, I haven't done that much scientific studying into it other than observationally. On my farm, we've planted around that kind of mid to early May time frame. It's worked out really good, and the nitro boost has jumped up out of the ground. I think you can outcompete some of the weeds as well by getting kind of that jump start. So that's my take. If you're just broadcasting the seed, it also seems to take a little bit longer for whatever reason in those no-till systems. If you're tilling, getting that burst of organic matter mineralization, which is basically fertility, which is going to help those seeds to germinate faster. But there's some negatives to tilling, as we've discussed. With no tilling in a drill, you kind of get the benefit of both, because you are putting the seed right into the soil, although you're not going to mineralize organic matter at the same rate you would with tilling. But when you're just doing a broadcast method, those seeds have to have moisture, and it just takes a little bit longer for them to find that soil and get that first root established, etc. So keep that in mind as well, that if you are doing that method, you might want to bump up your seeding rate, and keep in mind the soil forecast as well. But that's my take on when to plant and how soil temperatures can impact your success this season. Hopefully you found that interesting, guys. And again, I like to catch it as it's going upwards. And check out greencast.com. It's a great website. I'm not sure if there's any other ones out there, but that's one that I've used for quite a few years. So if you like this information, please share, subscribe, and follow along. And check us out at vitalizeseed.com.